You may think you are helping your plants. You see the soil looking dry, the leaves drooping slightly, or the weather turning hot, so you reach for the watering can. It feels responsible. It feels like good gardening. But for some plants, that extra water is exactly what is killing them. The damage usually happens slowly. The roots sit in wet soil, oxygen disappears, the leaves turn yellow, growth becomes weak, the plant starts wilting, so you water it again. And that is where the cycle gets worse. A plant that is drowning can look almost exactly like a plant that is thirsty. Both may droop, both may lose leaves, both may stop growing. The difference is happening below the soil where you cannot easily see it. By the time the roots begin rotting, the plant may already be difficult to save. In this video, I am showing you 8 plants you are probably watering far too often, and the simple signs that tell you when they actually need a drink. Kindly like the video and subscribe to the channel. Some of these plants can survive weeks without water. Others store moisture in their leaves, stems, or roots. And one of them is commonly watered every few days, even though that routine can destroy it faster than drought ever will. Stay until the end, because number 6 is one of the most popular plants in homes and gardens, but it quietly dies from kindness more than almost any other plant. Before we begin, remember that watering depends on temperature, soil, container size, sunlight, humidity, and season. There is no perfect schedule that works everywhere. The safest rule is simple. Check the soil before you water. Now let us get into it. Number 1, lavender. Lavender does not want to be treated like a thirsty flower. It is a tough Mediterranean plant built for dry hillsides, rocky ground, strong sunlight, and long periods without rain. In its natural environment, lavender grows in soil that drains almost immediately. Water does not sit around the roots. The plant survives by developing a root system that searches through dry, lean ground for moisture. Then gardeners bring lavender home and place it in rich compost, heavy garden soil, or a decorative pot with poor drainage. They water it every few days because the leaves look slightly gray or dry. That is when trouble begins. Lavender leaves are naturally narrow, silvery, and sometimes slightly curled. Those features help the plant conserve water. They do not mean the plant is dying of thirst. When lavender receives too much water, the roots lose access to oxygen. Fungal problems develop. The lower leaves may turn yellow or brown, and the plant may begin wilting. The gardener sees the wilt and adds even more water. But the plant is not thirsty. The roots are damaged and can no longer move water properly. For newly planted lavender, water deeply after planting and continue watering occasionally while it establishes. The soil should dry significantly between waterings. Once established in the ground, lavender may need very little additional water unless the weather remains extremely dry for a long period. In many climates, rainfall is enough. Lavender in a container needs more attention because pots dry faster, but even there, it should not remain constantly moist. Use a container with several drainage holes. Terracotta is useful because it allows moisture to escape through the sides. Avoid leaving the pot in a saucer filled with water. Check the soil several inches down. If it still feels cool or damp, wait. Lavender would rather be slightly too dry than constantly wet. The soil matters just as much as the watering. Heavy clay holds moisture around the roots. Rich compost can remain wet for days. A gritty, fast-draining mix is much safer. You can improve drainage with coarse sand, gravel, or horticultural grit, depending on your soil and growing method. Planting lavender on a slight mound also helps water move away from the crown. And do not pile thick, wet mulch around the base. Organic mulch can trap moisture against the stems and encourage rot. Gravel or small stones are often a better match. If your lavender looks unhappy, do not immediately water it. Touch the soil. Check the drainage. Look for yellowing near the base. The plant may not be asking for more water. It may be asking you to stop. Number 2, rosemary. Rosemary comes from the same kind of dry Mediterranean environment as lavender. That means it has very little patience for wet feet. The plant has narrow, needle-like leaves that reduce moisture loss. Older stems become woody, and mature roots can search deeply for water. Rosemary is built to survive dry periods. What it is not built to survive is constantly wet soil. Gardeners often place rosemary beside vegetables like tomatoes or basil and water the entire bed at the same rate. That creates a problem because the vegetables may need regular moisture, while rosemary prefers the soil to dry much more deeply. If you water enough for the tomatoes, you may slowly drown the rosemary. The first signs can be confusing. Leaves may turn brown, black, or yellow. Branch tips may droop. The plant may lose its fresh smell and stop producing new growth. Because the foliage appears dry, many people assume the plant needs more water. But rosemary suffering from root rot cannot absorb moisture properly. The roots are damaged, even though the soil around them is wet. Before watering, push your finger into the soil. Do not judge by the surface alone. The top may look dry while the lower root zone is still damp. For rosemary in the ground, wait until the soil has dried several inches down. For container rosemary, water deeply when the mix is mostly dry, then allow all excess water to drain. Never let the pot sit in standing water. The container should not be much larger than the root system. An oversized pot holds a large amount of wet soil around a relatively small plant. That moisture can remain trapped for too long. Use a fast-draining mix and a pot with large drainage holes. Rosemary also needs sunlight and airflow. A plant kept in a dark corner dries slowly, even if the room feels warm. Indoors, place it in the brightest location available and keep it away from humid, stagnant conditions. During winter, rosemary grows more slowly. That means it uses less water. A watering routine that worked in summer may become dangerous in cold weather. Always reduce watering when growth slows. If the soil smells sour or the base of the plant feels soft, the roots may already be rotting. Remove the plant from the pot and inspect them. Healthy rosemary roots should be firm and lighter in color. Rotten roots are often dark, soft, and unpleasant smelling. Trim damaged roots. Replace wet soil with a fresh draining mix and reduce watering. But prevention is much easier than rescue. Rosemary does not need constant attention. It needs sun, drainage, and enough neglect to behave like the tough shrub it is. Number 3, snake plant. Snake plants have survived in homes for decades because they tolerate conditions that destroy many other houseplants. Low light, missed waterings, dry air, and neglect usually do not bother them much. What kills snake plants is overwatering. Their thick, upright leaves store moisture. Their underground rhizomes also hold water and energy. That means they can survive long periods without a drink. Yet many people water them every week because that is what they do with every other plant in the house. The soil never dries fully. The roots remain wet. The base of the leaves softens and the plant slowly begins collapsing. A healthy snake plant has firm leaves. An overwatered one may develop yellow patches, soft spots, or leaves that bend and fall near the base. Sometimes an entire leaf slides out of the soil because the bottom has rotted away. By that point, the problem has been developing for a while. The safest way to water a snake plant is to let the soil dry almost completely. Check deep into the pot, not just the surface. You can use your finger, a wooden stick, or the weight of the container. A dry pot feels noticeably lighter than a wet one. When the soil is dry, water thoroughly. Let the excess drain out, then leave the plant alone until it dries again. That may take 1 week in a hot, bright room, but it may take 3, 4, or even more weeks in a cool, dim location. The calendar does not matter. The soil does. Pot choice makes a huge difference. Snake plants need drainage holes. A beautiful decorative pot without drainage can become a hidden swamp. If you want to use a decorative cover pot, keep the plant in a smaller nursery container inside it. Remove the inner pot when watering, let it drain completely, and then return it. Use a loose, fast-draining soil mix. A mix designed for succulents or cacti usually works better than dense, general-purpose compost. The plant also needs less water in winter. Growth slows when light levels drop and temperatures cool. If you continue watering as often as you did in summer, rot becomes much more likely. And avoid pouring water directly into the center of the leaves. Water trapped in the crown can cause rot, especially in cool conditions. Pour around the soil instead. Snake plants are often described as impossible to kill. That is not true. They are very easy to kill when they are loved with a watering can. Number 4. Aloe vera. Aloe vera has thick leaves filled with gel. Those leaves are water storage tanks. The plant developed that ability because it comes from dry environments where rain may be unpredictable. When water is available, aloe absorbs and stores it. Then it uses that reserve slowly during dry periods. That means frequent watering makes no sense for the way the plant is designed. Aloe roots need time to dry. When the soil remains wet, the roots begin rotting and the thick leaves lose their firmness. The first sign may be a change in texture. Overwatered aloe leaves can become soft, transparent, yellow, or mushy. They may bend downward instead of standing firmly. The base of the plant may darken. Underwatered aloe looks different. Its leaves may become thinner, slightly wrinkled, or less full. That is a clearer sign that the stored water is being used up. Even then, the plant can usually recover after a deep watering. It is much easier to revive a dry aloe than a rotten one. Water only when the soil is fully or almost fully dry. Then water deeply enough to wet the root zone and let all excess moisture escape. Do not give the plant tiny sips every few days. Small frequent waterings keep the upper soil damp, but may not encourage strong roots. A deep watering followed by a long dry period is closer to the pattern aloe understands. Use a wide pot with drainage holes. Aloe can become top-heavy, so a stable container helps, but avoid a pot that is too deep or oversized. Terracotta works well because it dries faster than plastic. The soil should contain plenty of mineral material such as grit, pumice, or perlite. Dense compost holds too much moisture around the roots. Aloe also needs good light. A plant in weak light uses less water and dries more slowly. If you keep aloe far from a window but water it like a sun-grown plant, the soil may remain wet for a long time. Increase light gradually, because a plant moved suddenly into intense sun can scorch. During cooler months, reduce watering sharply. Some aloe plants may need water only once every few weeks or even less, depending on the environment. Never leave them outdoors in heavy rain for long periods if the container drains poorly. And do not assume that wrinkling always means you should water immediately. Check the soil first. Root rot can also cause shriveled leaves because damaged roots are unable to absorb water. Aloe vera is built to hold water for you. Let it use what it has stored before adding more. Number 5. Jade plant. Jade plants can live for decades. They develop thick trunks, branching stems, and glossy green leaves that store moisture. With time, they can begin looking like miniature trees. But many jade plants never reach that stage because they are watered like tropical foliage plants. Jade is a succulent. Its leaves and stems store water, allowing it to survive dry stretches. Frequent watering keeps the roots wet and prevents the plant from using its natural reserves. The warning signs often appear in the leaves. Healthy jade leaves are thick and firm. An overwatered plant may develop yellow leaves, soft leaves, black spots, or sudden leaf drop. The stems may become weak and the base may begin rotting. An underwatered jade may have wrinkled or thinner leaves, but it usually remains firm enough to recover. Again, dryness is easier to fix than rot. Wait until the soil has dried deeply before watering. In a small pot under bright light, that may happen relatively quickly. In a large pot or a cool room, it may take much longer. Do not follow a weekly routine. Lift the pot. Feel the soil. Look at the leaves. When it is time to water, soak the soil thoroughly and let the excess drain. Then do not water again until the mix dries. Use a gritty, succulent mix. Jade roots are not designed to sit in dense, water-holding compost. The pot should have a drainage hole, and it should not be much larger than the root ball. A common mistake is moving a small jade plant into a huge decorative container. The roots occupy only a small portion of the pot, while the surrounding soil stays wet for days. That is a perfect setup for rot. Light also affects watering. Jade plants need bright light to grow strongly. In weak light, the stems stretch, the leaves spread farther apart, and the plant uses water slowly. A low-light jade is especially vulnerable to overwatering. Place it near a bright window and rotate it occasionally so growth stays balanced. During winter, many jade plants slow down. Water less often. Older plants with thick trunks may survive surprisingly long dry periods. And do not miss the leaves. Jade does not need high humidity, and water sitting on the foliage or crown can create spots and disease problems. If a stem begins rotting, cut above the damaged area into healthy tissue. Let the cutting dry and form a callus, then root it in dry or barely moist succulent mix. Jade is easy to propagate, which means even a damaged plant can sometimes be saved. But the best way to keep it alive for decades is simple. Stop watering it like a plant that cannot store water. Number 6. Orchid. Orchids are often watered far too often because they look delicate. People assume that a beautiful flowering plant must need constant moisture and care. But many common household orchids do not grow naturally in soil. They grow attached to trees, with roots exposed to air, rain, and rapid drying. Those thick silvery roots are designed to absorb moisture quickly and then breathe. Place them in a dense, wet potting mix and water every few days, and the roots begin suffocating. This is why orchids can look thirsty while sitting in wet material. Healthy orchid roots are firm. Depending on the type and moisture level, they may appear green, silver, or white. Rotten roots are brown, black, hollow, or soft. When the roots rot, the leaves may become limp and wrinkled because the plant can no longer absorb water. The gardener sees the limp leaves and waters again. That extra water finishes the remaining roots. For common moth orchids, water when the potting medium has mostly dried and the roots look silvery rather than bright green. The exact timing depends on temperature, airflow, pot size, and the material around the roots. Orchid bark dries faster than moss. Moss can hold moisture for a very long time, especially when packed tightly. A clear pot makes watering easier because you can see the roots and moisture inside. When watering, soak the roots thoroughly, then let all excess water drain. Do not leave the pot standing in a bowl of water. And do not allow water to remain in the crown, where the leaves meet. Crown rot can destroy an orchid quickly. If water collects there, Absorb it with tissue or tilt the plant so it drains out. The ice cube method is popular, but it is not ideal for many orchids. These are tropical plants, and they generally respond better to room temperature water applied thoroughly than to a few melting ice cubes. The goal is to wet the roots evenly, then allow them to breathe. Orchids also need airflow. Roots packed inside old, broken down bark may remain wet for too long. Repot every year or two, depending on how quickly the medium decomposes. Remove dead roots and replace the old material with fresh orchid bark or another suitable mix. A flowering orchid may use slightly more water than a resting one, but do not assume flowers require constant moisture. Check the roots. Check the pod. Check the medium. Number 6 is killed by kindness more than almost any other popular houseplant. The beautiful flowers make people nervous, and nervous gardeners reach for water. The orchid would usually prefer that you wait. Number 7, thyme. Thyme looks small and soft, but it is another tough Mediterranean herb. Its tiny leaves are designed to conserve moisture. Its woody stems tolerate dry conditions, and established plants can survive in rocky, lean soil. Frequent watering weakens thyme. The roots remain shallow and vulnerable, stems may rot near the base, and the plant can develop brown patches or collapse from the center. This often happens when thyme is planted beside herbs or vegetables that need more water. Basil, parsley, and lettuce appreciate regular moisture. Thyme does not. When all of them share one container or bed, the watering schedule usually favors the thirstier plants. The thyme slowly declines. Give thyme its own dry space or pair it with plants that have similar needs, such as rosemary, sage, or oregano. Plant it in full sun. Strong sunlight keeps the growth compact and helps the soil dry between waterings. In shade, thyme can become thin and weak. The soil also stays damp longer, increasing the risk of rot. Use very well-drained soil. Thyme grows well in gravel gardens, between stones, along dry borders, and in containers with gritty mix. It does not need rich compost or frequent fertilizer. Too much feeding produces soft growth with weaker flavor. Before watering, check below the surface. A mature thyme plant in the ground may need little extra water once established. Container thyme dries faster, but it still should not remain wet. Water deeply, then wait. Do not give small daily splashes. Trim thyme regularly to keep it compact, but avoid cutting deeply into old, bare wood because some plants may not regenerate well from it. After flowering, a light trim encourages fresh growth. If the center becomes woody and dies out, take cuttings from healthy outer stems and start new plants. Thyme is easy to propagate and replace, but correct watering keeps it productive much longer. Its natural shape may look a little dry compared with lush garden herbs. Do not let that appearance fool you. Thyme is not begging for water. It is showing you that it is built to live without much of it. Number 8, ZZ plant. The ZZ plant is one of the best houseplants for people who forget to water. It stores moisture in thick underground rhizomes that look almost like small potatoes. Its glossy leaves also help reduce water loss. That storage system allows it to survive long dry periods. It also makes overwatering extremely dangerous. When the soil remains wet, the rhizomes begin rotting. Once rot reaches those storage organs, the entire stem may turn yellow, soften, and fall. A ZZ plant can look perfect for weeks while the problem develops underground. Then several stems begin yellowing at the same time. The natural reaction is to add fertilizer or water, but that often makes the damage worse. Yellowing on a ZZ plant is frequently connected to excess moisture. Before watering, let the soil dry deeply. In a bright, warm room, the plant may need water more often. In low light, it can remain dry for weeks. ZZ plants tolerate low light, but low light means slower growth and lower water use. That combination makes weekly watering especially dangerous. Water thoroughly only when the pot is dry enough, then allow all excess water to drain. Do not pour a small amount every few days. Use a container with drainage holes and a loose soil mix. Adding perlite, bark, or another coarse material can improve airflow around the roots. Avoid using a huge pot. The soil around the rhizomes should dry within a reasonable amount of time. If you suspect rot, remove the plant from the container. Inspect the roots and rhizomes. Healthy rhizomes are firm. Rotten ones are soft, dark, or foul-smelling. Cut away damaged sections with a clean blade and allow the healthy parts to dry briefly before replanting in fresh soil. Do not water immediately after repotting if cuts were made. Give the damaged areas time to seal. ZZ plants are slow growers. Do not try to force growth with constant watering and fertilizer. More water will not make them grow faster. Good light, warmth, and patience will. This plant can survive a forgotten month far more easily than it can survive a pot that never dries. How to tell overwatering from underwatering. The signs can look similar, so you need to investigate before reacting. Start with the soil. If the plant is drooping and the soil is wet, do not add water. Check the roots and drainage. If the soil is completely dry and has pulled away from the sides of the pot, the plant may genuinely need water. Next, feel the leaves. Underwatered succulent leaves often become thinner, wrinkled, or less firm. Overwatered leaves may become yellow, translucent, soft, or mushy. Look at where the damage begins. Overwatering often causes problems near the base of the plant because the roots and lower stems remain wet. Underwatering may cause dry, crisp edges or general loss of fullness. Smell the soil. Healthy soil should smell earthy. A sour, swampy, or rotten smell is a warning that the root zone has remained wet too long. Lift the pot. This is one of the easiest methods for houseplants. A freshly watered pot feels heavy. As the soil dries, it becomes lighter. With practice, you can judge moisture simply by lifting the container. Check the drainage holes. Roots growing through the holes may mean the plant needs repotting. Dark, soft roots may signal rot. And remember that wilt does not always mean thirst. Heat, root damage, disease, transplant shock, and excess water can all cause drooping. Do not water first and ask questions later. Investigate first. Stop following a fixed schedule. A watering schedule feels convenient, but plants do not use water according to the day of the week. They use water according to their environment. A plant may dry quickly during a hot, bright week and slowly during a cool, cloudy one. A small pot dries faster than a large pot. Terracotta dries faster than plastic. A plant in active growth uses more water than a resting plant. A root-bound plant may dry very quickly, while a newly repotted plant in a large container may remain wet for days. Humidity changes the rate too. In dry air, soil and leaves lose moisture faster. In humid conditions, evaporation slows. That is why water once a week can be dangerous advice. It ignores nearly everything that matters. Instead of using a schedule, create a checking routine. Once or twice a week, inspect your plants. Touch the soil, lift the pots, look at the leaves, check the forecast. Then water only the plants that need it. You may check a snake plant every week, but water it only once a month. That is not neglect. That is observation. The right way to water. When a dry-tolerant plant finally needs water, do not give it a tiny splash. Water deeply. For container plants, pour slowly until water begins draining from the bottom. This wets the entire root zone and encourages stronger roots. Then discard the excess water. For outdoor plants, water near the base and allow moisture to soak deeply into the soil. Shallow watering encourages roots to remain near the surface, where they dry more quickly. After watering, wait until the plant reaches the appropriate dryness level again. Do not top up the moisture every day. The dry period is part of the watering cycle. Roots need oxygen. As water drains and the soil dries, air returns to the spaces around the roots. That breathing period is essential. Watering correctly is not only about giving plants moisture. It is also about giving them time without it. Final recap. Let us go through the 8 plants one more time. Lavender needs dry, gritty soil and suffers when watered like an ordinary flower. Rosemary prefers deep, occasional watering and quickly declines in constantly wet beds. Snake plants store moisture in their leaves and rhizomes, so the soil should dry almost completely. Aloe vera holds water in its thick leaves and is much easier to revive from dryness than from rot. Jade plants need a deep drink followed by a long dry period. Orchids need wet roots for a short time, followed by airflow and drying, not dense soil that stays soaked. Thyme performs best in lean, sunny, fast-draining conditions. And ZZ plants can survive weeks without water because their underground rhizomes store moisture. The biggest watering mistake is not giving a plant too little. It is refusing to understand how that plant was designed to live. Some plants come from rainforests. Others come from rocky hillsides, deserts, and dry grasslands. They cannot all be watered the same way. So before you reach for the hose or watering can, stop. Feel the soil. Look at the leaves. Think about the weather. Ask whether the plant truly needs water or whether watering has simply become part of your routine. A plant does not know that you are trying to help. It only knows whether its roots can breathe. If this video saved one of your plants from another unnecessary watering, hit the like button and share it with someone who waters everything on the same schedule. Subscribe for more practical gardening advice that helps you grow healthier plants without wasting time, money, or effort. And leave a comment telling me which of these 8 plants you may have been watering too often. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.